that, we move on to our third panel discussion. The topic is Breaking Barriers, Tools to Manage a Multi-Generational Workforce in the Multi-Generational Ecosystem. And would like to introduce our moderator of the session, who we've heard in the morning as well, introducing Anisha Motwani, Founder, Director, STN Ventures. We also have our panelists presenting, Samir Kukre, President, Human Capital, Praj Industries, Dr. Deepak Deshpande, CHRO and Senior VP, NetMagic Solutions, Sunita Cherian, Chief Culture Officer and Senior Vice President, Corporate Human Resources, Wipro Limited, Vinod Bidwaik, Vice President and CHRO, Cluster India, Middle East, Africa, Alpha Level India Private Limited, Amit Chinsorikar, Global Chief Human Resources Officer, Tata Consumer Products. Ms. Anisha, please take over.
Thank you, Ankita. It's such a pleasure to have such a prestigious panel and such senior panelists sitting here. So welcome all of you. And the topic that we are talking about is from multi-generational talent force, managing millennials to perennials. And I want to go to you, Amit, first. And I want to begin with a very fundamental question. With the workplaces become more complex and talent becoming more and more dynamic, what do you think? Is the generational issue becoming more relevant or less relevant? Because fundamentally we believe that when it comes to careers, there are certain things irrespective of age you would want. You would want a good boss, you would want a good career growth, you would want your perks and promotions, and that is irrespective of which generation you are from. So I really do want to understand how crucial is this issue today? Is it a critical issue or no?
So thanks Anisha. Hi everyone. To answer your question, in my view, this issue has never been more relevant than it is today. Mm-hmm. And I say that for a couple of reasons. It's not so much about generations that is either based on age or seniority or hierarchy, but it's because it is really based on a fundamental set of values and beliefs that are changing ever so rapidly on an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm. And let me attempt to answer that with an example, right? I mean, if you were to look at what gets people to, what makes one an attractive employer, right? And I think a lot of things that you talked about, Anisha, are very relevant, right? Everyone wants a good boss, a good career, a high-performing company. But the questions that are getting asked in today's day and age sometimes are very different. For example, what is your level of comfort with digital technology? Where do you stack up on the sustainability index? How do companies from a sustainability perspective see you? How do you view volunteering and working for the community? What is it that you think about providing flexibility in terms of multiplicity of careers? Mm-hmm. How important do you see, the relevance of spouses working? And therefore, what is the relevance of double income and how do you see all of that? Now, a lot of these issues are extremely contextual, and it's no coincidence that a lot of them will come from people who are not very, they've not been in the workforce for a very long period of time. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is, because the set of beliefs that is coming up is fundamentally, kind of changing, people have different expectations from work itself, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what's happening is, at a point in time, the company that you worked for very often became the brand. Mm-hmm. What's happening now is the experience that you have at a particular workplace or in a particular role or a particular job that you're doing is becoming increasingly contextual. So I think the fact that it's multi-generational is more relevant than it has ever been. I think the concept of the way, I think it was described earlier, right, which is, you can either treat consumers as a bunch of consumers, or you can treat every consumer with the concept of n is equal to 1. Mm-hmm. I think it's becoming exactly the same as far as people who are coming into the workforce or are in the workforce today. So n is equal to 1, treating everyone with a degree of customization, mm-hmm. which is the expectation that people have, in any case, in terms of how they get treated, is ensuring that this issue is more relevant now than it has ever been. And thankfully, I think just given the profile of all of us who are on the call, I think it is thankfully no longer restricted to age or a vintage or hierarchy. It depends on a multiplicity of other factors as well.
No, thank you, Amit. That was wonderful. The fact that you're talking about customization and n is equal to 1, and those actually just treating a generation as a homogeneous set and saying, one generation versus the other. You need to go far more granular. Okay, and that's what I heard you say, and I think that's from there. If I were to come to you, Sunita, and I think Amit also touched about technology, and since you are, at the heart of a tech company, there is this one generation that is born digitally native. Okay, and then you have people who actually are struggling to come up the digital curve, and yet digital has become a fundamental core for any business to do well today. How do you bridge that gap, the technological divide between generations? What do you do? What tools and tricks do you deploy?
Thanks, Anisha, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this panel. So you're right. It's good that one is part of a tech company, as a result of which, honestly speaking, the technology divide amongst the generations have been the least of our concerns,
okay.
Right? Because I think right from the word go, the fact that you join a company which is in the tech space, obviously it means that you're hiring, and what you're looking for irrespective of the generation definitely tallies in with their savviness when it comes to appreciation of technology. And, if you ask me, the COVID has been a great reset irrespective of which generation you belong. Because if you had to be relevant, at least during the COVID times, with most people working from home, in my view, technology has been the biggest reset, the biggest leveler, because irrespective of generation that you belong to, the usage, the appreciation, the way you've gone about adopting it has clearly stood you in good stead. Because today you have people in the 80s actually going into your CoWIN app and booking their slots and so on and so forth, which was something which was really unheard of. So I think thanks to the progress that the country has made, thanks to the progress that organizations have made, the fact that everybody has their laptop. So it was not too difficult. When COVID struck, people just took their laptops and went on home and just continued, So I think we've been blessed that we've had the entire workforce, which was a lot more technologically savvy than having to bring them on board and making them appreciate, so on and so forth. But of course, I think for us, it would be more of the cutting edge technology and how are they really innovating day after day, which is key and which is where a lot more of the emphasis is on. And before I hand over, Anisha, maybe just one more point I would like to add to what Amit spoke about in your first question on generations. While I completely agree that the concept of n is equal to 1 is absolutely relevant in today's times, I think one must also not forget the importance of intersectionality. Because, more than just the generation part of it, how different identities will shape your experiences, right? So it's not just a generation, but I believe along with it, with the other identities, that we must be able to understand them better, and the actions that we take, and it just reminds me of what we did for gender. Because it was so easy to say that, paint all women issues with one brush and you've got your answers. And we saw that that's not really so, because, every woman, depending on the life stage that she was in, was demanding a whole lot of actions which were very fine-tuned to that life stage. So I would probably put generation in the same bucket to say that, it depends on the stage at which they are. And of course, the actions that the organization takes must be in tune with that. Otherwise, you've actually lost the plot.
So let me just, on the same technology question, I want to hear maybe Amit, which is not a, Wipro is a tech company. So, that's a hiring criteria to have tech savvy people, and that becomes an acquisition criteria. But a non-tech company, okay, does your kind of company also feel that technology today is actually a great leveler and people are at the same level, versus saying, no, that, the older generation does need and struggles to actually keep pace, and it is becoming a challenge.
So sorry, you wanted me to answer that, right?
Yes, Amit. Yes.
Yeah. So let me just respond by saying that there is no company actually today which is not a tech company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that some companies make money out of tech, but every company is a tech company. Now the reason why I say that is that at the end of the day, you are governed by what your consumers seek. Yeah, what your consumers. Now, for example, Tata Consumer Products. If you look at it, if you look at our products, and if I were to do a quick kind of round with the esteemed colleagues here, everyone would be aware of the products, which is one. But if I were to ask, how have your buying habits changed in the last 1 year? You would say, I pretty much buy online. I get on to one of the platforms and see if it's available. I start looking at what is your listing in terms of what is there. When there is a new product, I go online and read reviews and understand how that's happening. So I think the key thing is to remember, and which is a lot of work that we've actually tried to do around what we call as how shall I say, making friends with digital. I mean, that's what we kind of call it, or making friends with technology. See, one must understand that technology by itself does nothing. It's basically a means to an end.
Sure.
Yeah. It basically is meant to solve a problem or make something that you are doing better. So I think as long as you put the premise of saying that, listen, this is something that will make you better, people embrace it. And the classic example of that, for example, was pioneered by Uber, right? Now, Uber is essentially not a technology company. I mean, irrespective of what they say, basically what they are doing is they are solving an urban transportation problem. So when you go and say, what's the problem I'm trying to solve for, and what is the technology that I can, front end, back end to make that happen, it's that experience that changes it. And you will find that majority of people, right, once they understand that something is going to help them, and therefore you need to know enough about technology so that it helps you. And don't worry, it won't bite. Very often people embrace it, pretty willingly. And, I think the point that Sunita made was really, so relevant from that point of view, which is we never should really paint everybody with the same brush. For example, we found that people who have otherwise been in the workforce for 25 years, 27 years, have embraced changes that we found in technology far faster, far quicker, because their mindset has been, this frees up time for me, this allows me to do more. As opposed to, someone who maybe have been in the workforce for a shorter period of time, who challenges technology and says, is this the best thing that's available?
Sure.
So I think the fundamental difference in thinking is if you embrace it and go with something which is never 100%, right? So we will never always get it perfectly right in the first attempt. I think, the Covaxin thing, registering was such a great example, right? I mean, for example, when I was attempting to do it, I couldn't get through in the first shot because maybe I was trying to do it too early. I was too impatient. When my dad tried it, it happened in the first shot. It went through and he said, listen, I'm going to go day after tomorrow. And I was flabbergasted. What happened? He said, no, I just took my time and did it at a different pace. So it kind of pretty much works if you realize that it's here to help you. It will make your life easier.
Yeah.
And that's the premise that we've operated on, which is, saying make friends with digital. It's more about that.
Yeah. And also, I think a lot of kudos to the companies who are actually working very hard to actually take the pain out of technology, to make it as seamless and as easy as a click of a button, like they say. It truly is a click of a button, And so moving on from technology, let me come to you, Sameer. Let's change topics and talk about this generation and their views about leadership and expectations from leadership. My son has just started working. His expectations from his boss are very, very different from, say, what my expectations were from my boss a few years back. The young generation needs a boss who can just be a friend, who he can share with, who would be very open, almost like a buddy, And you have the older generation that had still a hierarchical thing from their leadership expectations, somebody who would be like a guide, like a mentor, somebody who would actually be nudging them in the right direction, and somebody whose shoulders they can cry on if they want to, and of course loyalty. What are your views on leadership expectations across generations?
Yeah, thanks. Actually. I have a different types of thoughts coming into mind when you are asking this particular question. And it is multidimensional. And I feel whatever we talked about technology, whatever we talked about the change in profile of people and the way of the doing things, I think a lot of change due to the society we are living with. And it's a reflection of the society in our workplace as well. And when I just on a very bird's eye view, I see what are the different factors which are old versus new, or today versus tomorrow, and all such kind of things. I can see the values of the societies. Society is also changing. So, like for example, if I look, I just pin down some behaviors or kind of a thought processes, like is satisfaction versus success, or time spent versus quality time spent, or family versus extended family in part of in form of social media. Okay, loyalty to the passion versus job or career, or itself the job versus career, or perceived identity versus actual identity. There are so many things change in the society, and obviously that is reflecting on the workforce. And the new generation has got lot many expectations because they are looking at the job as a career, and that can be small or bigger. That's something based on the longevity of their interest in that particular profession. But I have seen people doing different, and it's not a confusion, but then they're doing basic qualification in something, post-graduation in something, and then completely doing something different as a profession. So that is something which they are also evolving with their expectations about themselves and the organization. On organization, when they look at I'm coming to the question you are having. Yes, they have many things they expect from the leader, because they are giving their 100% as a young generation what is required to be given, because they know the environment around. They are sensitive towards the kind of a business requirements, and they would like to come up in the life against the competition. So I don't think the kind of a competition this generation is seeing any other generation must have seen. So they know exactly how to show their talent against the competition they have. And from that perspective, I think they expect leader to give a full support in terms of resources, in terms of environment, and the tools and resources what is required to be successful. As you said, that having the informal relationship, because again that is a formal versus informal. So they would like to be informal in their relationship. So the old is gone there, where the boss is always right, but then it is coming from argument to a discussions and direction to collaboration. So this is something which is very important. So they look for the collaboration, they look for the rapport, they look for the treatment, and their expectations from the leadership is to be more transparent and taking them into the process so they can contribute much more. So organization needs to be more vigilant on how we can include employees, and especially the new employees as well, to even if irrespective of the levels and hierarchy, how we can include them, give them a complete picture of the business, and then they will be able to really put the confidence on the leader to follow what he or she is talking about.
Sunita, I would love to hear an example from you on what Samir just spoke about, leadership expectations across generations. I mean, anything, any live, experience you can share that would really bring this whole thing alive of, how youngsters, move from, just give me a direction to discuss with me, from direction to discussion, from just telling to just, collaborating this thing. And do you see that playing out more and more?
So interesting, Anisha, because I was just trying to reflect back probably at my younger Sunita when I joined the workforce out of campus. And I was just trying to figure out were my expectations a little different from what it is today. And, but fundamentally my point is net, you want someone whom you can trust.
Sure.
Net, you want someone whom you can communicate with.
Sure.
You want somebody who's got your back.
Sure.
And have these expectations really changed across generations? I'm not too sure, because I think these are expectations which were probably there when I was in my 20s, and it still continues when I'm in my 40s. So to that extent, I think it just boils down to the fact that you have to build that trust with the team, irrespective of which generation of leader you are, because until and unless you build that trust, it's difficult to carry the relationship forward. Yeah. Two, I think it's extremely important for you to let the individual know that you have their back.
Sure.
It's important for you to let the individual grow, learn, guide them. So I think those are characteristics which were always there, which will continue to be there. Probably what you want is a more chilled out boss in terms of, not just giving you directions of do this and do that, but maybe you would appreciate it more if you are included in the conversation. So I would emphasize the word inclusion, because am I included in the decision making, or am I just told that this is what you need to do? So I think probably that's the change that one observes. And I think more and more organizations are realizing the importance of these. But, like I said, if I were to just think back, probably I was fortunate to have joined an organization which had these elements, right then, and it has them today. So I'm not able to really see so much of a difference between my bosses, if I were to say. But yeah, this is the experience that comes to my mind, at least, Anisha.
Wonderful. Vinod, I'm coming to you next, Have we lost him? Oh, here he is. Yeah.
Vinod,
Hi. Vinod, the new startup ecosystem has given birth to, 20-somethings and early 30-something entrepreneurs who achieved success so quickly. And the largest churn that you find is in startups today. Okay. And some of the things that you hear practically on ground is that the expectations and the energy levels of these people who've achieved success so quickly, who really come up by the entire entrepreneurial way of doing things. And when they are going about now recruiting people, older employees, younger bosses, with a completely different work culture and work ethos. And here they want to bring in some structure and stability in the organization as they start scaling up. And that is where the conflicts start happening. And you see so much churn happening, despite the fact that there are fabulous salaries, fabulous perks and ESOPs and stuff like that. They are the ones who find it the most difficult to attract senior talent. And not just they attract it, but I don't know if they're able to retain it. So what are your views on this kind of a phenomena that's playing out today in the industry?
Thanks, Anisha. I think a very valid question, because this is not applicable only in a startup also, but also the companies which are hiring the young talent in the organization. I have seen the people who are younger managers taking the charge of the business, who are business leaders and who are heading some particular function. So I think this is applicable everywhere. One of the things we need to understand, and Sunita touched upon to the concept of inclusion, because always we speak about diversity and inclusion, but before diversity, now we need to learn to put the inclusion before that. So inclusion and diversity, because this is a balancing. If you see that millennial generation or multi-generation cultures, you have a different people, but it is always a war, or I think the fiction between individualism versus collectivism. The one generation is more believes on team working, collectivism, collective decision making. However, millennial generation goes in individualism, taking fast decisions, and my way is the highway sometimes, because they are born like that, they are nurtured like that, their mind is conditioned like that. Another struggle is between empowered versus connected, because people are empowered and knowledge is the information. What we say that the knowledge is the king nowadays. Information is the king. Data is available everywhere. So in earlier days, you don't need to train the people or expect something. That's changing a lot, because now the people are empowered. Google is there, everywhere there. People are learning on their own. Their learning style is changing, and that's why that is a struggle. But as another side, connecting with the meta knowledge within the organization, like startup or even matured organization, we have a talent spread over across the organization, which is about product, which is about technology, which is about application, and of course, general knowledge. Now, because the old boys network, the old people knows how to connect easily, how to get that meta knowledge and how to implement and get successful. Where the millennial struggle is more, and that's how we need to understand how to balance that. And of course, you touch upon about entrepreneurial skills and entrepreneurial skills. That is very important, but it's again conflict with the ambitions and how the different generations within the organization share and care. I will give my example. Our is a long technology company. It's a strong product and application focus. And we don't call ourselves nowadays as a manufacturing and engineering company, because we have a technology, we have a IT center, we have R&D center, everything is there. So it is not about we have a BPO, KPOs, share services like that. And among these businesses, there are smaller businesses which are new businesses and they are independent entities. And that struggle always starts, because how you are going to balance that connectivity and how to create that ecosystem in the organization is very important. But one fundamental thing, what I observe, that if you come with sharing and caring as a human being, irrespective of which generation you are, everybody would like to share. The mode may be different, the platforms may be different, and everybody would like to care. Millennial generation or a Z generation may not care. We think that they may pursue like that, but if you go and if you touch upon their hearts, you will say that they will take care. They have things. So one thing is always we discuss that if you are calling for a party and organizing a party and inviting everybody is the diversity, but getting their suggestions and participating then to organize the party and how the party should be is the inclusion. And when we actually give that sense different generations, and of course there are a lot of challenges, because it's the struggle of conflict of minds, because the successful young managers will not listen easily. But then when they see the value that, okay, the X generation or Y generation have something to say, they actually agree on that. I have seen some examples where, and for that, we as a HR and as a leader, CXOs has to play a major role to create that platforms within the organizations. Like simple thing started with some networks, some millennial networks, or from women specifically having a women network and giving them the freedom to express within the organization instead of just if you suppress their thought process, it will vent out some, in other way. And that's why it is very important to create that culture within the organization. Everybody is self-centered, but other side, everybody would like to, contribute in a larger things. And forget about all this, but if we give the larger purpose, and this is a buzzword nowadays, Amit also touched upon that, people, planet, and profit. So if you give the purpose to the larger things, the ways can be different. Only one thing we as a leader need to work to create that ecosystem with the organization, empowered system, and give them the freedom to work upon, and the results definitely will be there.
Thank you, Vinod. You touched upon a very, very good word, which is purpose. And, I'm going to take that word to Dr. Deepak and ask him, is purpose that binding force in an organization that glues the generations together?
Please repeat, Anisha.
Dr. Deepak, I was talking about, is purpose the binding word Vinod spoke about give them a core purpose, give them a common purpose, an anchor, a North Star that actually glues the entire organization, irrespective of generations, to stick and follow, that gives them the reason to exist in an organization. So do you think that purpose, is it just a buzzword, or an honest purpose can truly, cut across generations and rally the forces together?
This is a wonderful question you have asked, Anisha. But before I attempt to answer that, let me thank you for having me over here. I'm delighted to, connect with Vinod, the good friend. We're more on the virtual friends. And it's a joy to listen to Sunita and Samir and, of course, Amit. And be here on a platform probably to promote the support by Sapphire. So thank you for that. But more importantly, I was enthused to be here because of the very theme of the discussion. And until I really started working, preparing for it, I never realized, oh my God, we've been actually going through this grind, And so many times and so often you think that, you okay, it is there. It's in your mind, but unless you spend some time with it and play with the ideas, then you connect. I think Sunita said twice. The best way to be in a situation or live your life is to see how I am connected to that. So go back into your past and see, hey, what was this? How was I as a starter, as an intern, or as a fresher? How is it? Does this question really apply to me? And you will discover a whole lot of wonders and, great things that you have done. And then you are able to really separate the chaff from the, whatever you miss. So that's the easiest, being spontaneous. So the question that you ask, is the purpose? Well, is it a buzzword? Yes, it's a buzzword. It is a big statement. Yes, it's a big statement. But is it hollow? I would say no. Reason being, while I may still, the moment you said purpose, I was just thinking about the so-called, we come from a generation where our career would start with what is the purpose and vision and mission of your company. I said, oh, come on, give me a break. I've just started my life. Why are you telling me all this, right? But then, as we grew along, until recently, we never had, until we become, sometimes when you reach a stage in your life, it is important to show that to the world. More often people, small companies, entrepreneur companies, they leave this in spirit in their heart and soul and their actions. But as you grow along, it's very important to reach out. You need a larger, you're not just one man or group of people, you're reaching out to the rest of the world. It's a global community, so you have to have that. Having said that, while that is important, but at individual level, each of us have a purpose, whether somebody has a mission, vision, critical statement or not, each of us have a purpose for life. We may not have realized consciously, but we know deep within, if you peel the onion, you will find this is the purpose of my life. If you ask a 12-year-old child, what is the purpose of your life? He says, I want to be with my family. I want to be loved. I want to give them love. I want to contribute, right? I want to be happy. And even if you may spend, 60 odd years working, become CEO, chairman, be the best of the richest man, he will still searching for that purpose of life. And you will realize, all of us do, we will all realize that the purpose of life is to be happy. And we are only going through achieving that through different means and modes. So basically, the I purpose, individual purpose, is ingrained, is a part of the purpose of the organization. So if I see them differently, they will be different. But if I have this, the sight or the vision to see my purpose, I can realize my purpose through the purpose of the organization or vice versa. Sure. Therefore, I said, first, if you remember, I said, I love the topic. I love the topic because multi-generational workforce for multi-generational, what kind of, the topic is really inspiring. The reason I say that, because today, I think it's time we have given up this generation Y, generation X and Z. Today, I think there is, it was Gina Pell who first time coined this concept called perennials. Perennials, actually, it is much more broader, right? It goes beyond the broad definition of demographic, right? And understands people on a more meaningful level. That is where the purpose comes in, right? So the perennial, we need to be everybody, whether it is whatever generation you belong, you may be to generation Z, or you may be to XYZ, right? But all of us need to belong to, at least aim to, endeavor to, make an effort to belong to perennials, because this is a group of people, you know, of across ages, across types, different, you know, parameters, right? But they transcend the stereotypes and make connections with each other and around the world. That's very important. And that is possible, or that becomes possible when you are able to, you know, grow up this edge. I have put in 45 years experience, 30 years experience. I've seen it all, done it all. And you are not defined by the generation you belong to, but by being relevant to the context.
Sure.
So long answer to the short, yes, purpose within a larger purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Deepak, this was a wonderful response, you know, I mean, aligning an individual purpose to a larger organization purpose, you know, and if there is that alignment, you know, it just becomes so seamless. It doesn't matter which generation you are.
I would like to add one more thing. Mm-hmm. We all have, unfortunate or fortunate, to have walked our own path, career life. I think I see a lot of veterans here. And they're all successful people, like the so-called people whom we have followed and we are inspired. They are also successful leaders. Sure. They are the people who inspired and motivated us. But we have seen them doing some mistakes.
Sure.
You know, we have learned from those mistakes.
Sure.
Right? Being relevant is very important. If you are not, your past success is just, your last success is your last success, you know. So therefore, I don't want to say much more, because seniors, elders, I really have huge respect. But I have seen that not being relevant can be very, very, very dangerous. Yeah. So we have to be relevant. If I have to think, like somebody said, I want a WhatsApp manager or a cool manager, you know, we have to be all that. You cannot come with that old stick and old story and old methods. Baba, aisa nahi hota hai. You have to be like in a football match. Yeah. Ball kahan se aayega, kaise aayega, what angle, what speed does it come? But I'm a part of that. I'm in front of the goal. The ball has come to me. I am not going to judge how the ball has come. It's come to me. I should have the ability to catch it and pass it on also to somebody else who might, you know, win a goal for me.
Yeah. We've all
life is also like that.
Yeah. The most agile coaches, you know, I mean, with dealing with multiple generations and complexities. Yes, absolutely. If we don't make ourselves relevant, you know, how can we expect our employees to make themselves relevant? Absolutely. I think the last couple of minutes, I just want to go around just one last word, starting with Amit on, you know, any best practice in your organization that you would like to share, you know, with a tool, a trick, whatever you've deployed, you know, to manage generations. And I think I'll just have that question across to everybody. We'll start with Amit, but we can just go one by one.
You know, very often, if you look at the composition of executive teams or boards and or people like that, you know, very often it comprises of people who we believe are a little bit more senior, you know, who've seasoned, who've had more experience, etc. What we found is just adding what we call as you know, the younger folks, identified specific younger folks to come into meetings of this nature, right? And to come and primarily just be there as observers. For there. And we found that it adds tremendous value because I think, you know, to the point that Dr. Deepak was making, it helps people align to the larger purpose so that they understand why people think the way they think.
Sure.
Point number one. Point number two, very often some of the ideas or some of the thoughts that come, you know, from individuals who are there in that conversation is something you wouldn't have heard otherwise. And, you know, the key always is about being able to be agile, to understand and quickly respond. Sure. Because, I mean, you know, with the age of social media, you know, something in terms of the speed and etc. that it travels. So I think to answer your question, one key thing that we've learned is that when you put people into, how shall I say, into almost roles like reverse mentoring roles, or, you know, to be in a position to give feedback to the leadership of the organization, you will be amazed at some of the feedback that kind of comes through. So we found that very helpful to constantly have one ear on the ground when you hear from younger folks who've been in the company for a shorter period of time, because they bring in an outside in perspective. Otherwise you can tend to become very inward looking, right?
Sure. No, Amit, wonderful. I think this whole concept of an observer, to bring the observer, concept in, I think it's a wonderful practice, and you've seen personal benefits of it, and I think it's a great one. Samir, what about you? I mean, what can you tell people who are listening to us in terms of something that has worked for your organization?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful question because the ethos of the company lies in what we would like to do, what Dr. Deepak talked about in the purpose. And very purpose of our organization as a branch is lying in innovation. We call ourselves a technology company. And we have a technology which is cutting across the competition, and we make the kind of products or projects basically based on the technology.
Sure.
And innovation is something which we have cherished all the time for last 3.5 or 4 decades. And it has been pretty successful that we are giving opportunity to different level of people, different hierarchy. We have not seen those. And our founder chairman also has been on very assertive on promoting innovation. So we have been getting a lot of innovative ideas from youngsters as well as people who are in the profession for a long time. And every innovation is given a lot of importance, and by which we have created a lot of technologies in the renewable energy area, and that is something which is the success factor of our company as well. So I think from that perspective, I feel that we are cherishing or nurturing all the time the innovation in the company. So then we are always ahead of the world on creating and offering the solutions.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Innovation is like one creative, it keeps the creative juices flowing, and everybody's focus and attention is on innovation and shifts away from, the small quabbles of daily this thing. The minute you put a set of employees into a creative project, an innovation project, you see that, how completely engrossed they get. Yes, absolutely. Vinod, how about you? What do you want to tell with your experience?
Yeah, we have a lot of what we decided that in the organization, having a Swedish multinational company, one of the element of our company is very open and transparent culture.
Sure.
So we don't have hierarchies. We have very flat organization. We don't have, and we have ratio, that span of control and the top management to how it should be. So we follow that very strongly, and we communicate this, the logic behind that.
So what is your span of control? Is it flat? Is it how does that principle work? Span of control.
So its principle work from our top CEO to bottom level workman. What should be the layers within the organization to have a speed in the organization, and second is about what the process is. Of course, span of control is little bit different depending upon the business, depending upon the vertical you are working, but that is taken into care of. So mainly on a flat organization, so we don't have like fancy titles nowadays, and that's helping a lot because we did that restructuring few years back, eliminating all the titles within the organization. Mm-hmm. But other initiatives in terms of, we have an agile methodology where we encourage employees to nominate themselves to work on different projects within the organization. Sure. So it can be in certain R&D or certain automation teams it happens. However, on a manufacturing side, we have a Six Sigma, Lean Sigma, where we encourage people to closely get certified and work with a cross-functional team there. So these are some formal things. Sure. In informal way, we have some platforms like Millennial Connect, where they are given the budget and they are empowered to take the decision about that. So within the organization, there are certain innovation project if they would like to run. If, in fact, in certain areas, we also encourage them to take some cross-functional HR project, like how the salary structure should be.
I think we're really running late. I do want to give 20 seconds each to Sunita and Deepak. I think this concept.
Yeah, sure. So these are some ideas. Yeah.
Yes. Great. So Sunita and Deepak, 20 seconds before we wind up.
You want to go ahead, Deepak?
Well, I will say yes. Reason being, I think we need to today not restrict ourselves to demographics are very important. For whatever reasons, we have grown up. Our entire career perhaps is passed looking at only the demographics of, the age, right? But there are so many demographics you can have if you have a best way to capture the various elements of an employee life cycle. Okay. And capture it in a disciplined manner and apply the data analytics and the AI. Trust me, you will find all your answers, all your solutions to the problems of the company. There itself, don't go outside. Use the technology, but the information is there. So long we have depended only date of joining, seniority, experience, qualification. That is one element.
Very, very interesting. Using data management and artificial intelligence to manage employee life cycle. We do manage customer life cycles, and that's become the buzzword, and their life stages, and having, practices accordingly. I think wonderful, wonderful. Sunita, over to you.
Yeah, I just feel, the best practice in my mind is the most important thing that all leaders must inculcate is the ability to listen. Right? So just listen to what people are saying, not just for the heck of it, not because you're expected to, not because it's a formal feedback, but genuinely listen, ask for their opinions, because I think it shows when you're genuine about it. And, then irrespective of which generation you belong to, I think the fact that you are really trying to harness the potential of the diversity that you have in your team will show through. And, it's but natural that you will have all these generations in a meeting, but convention says that you will go and ask the most senior person. So as long as you're genuine about seeking feedback from all generations, I think that's what works the best. Yes. And especially in a pandemic where everybody is remote, the need for connecting, the need for listening is all the more imperative.
Thank you so much. This has just been such a wonderful discussion. I've learned so much, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to summarize all of it, but I think you guys really captured it well, and it's been my pleasure just moderating this panel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.